Hi, guys. So, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Rose, and this is Flower Reads a Lot. So, I have not posted a video in maybe 5 months, 4 months. I don't know, a really long time. I was in a huge reading slump at the end of last month, and I just also didn't feel like filming anything. But hopefully I'm back. We'll see. I don't know. No promises of consistency because I'm a busy gal, but I'm excited to be filming again. So that's a good thing. Also, I have a bit of a different setup. I had to use my podcast setup just because this is the only mic that I have currently. I don't think the camera mic would have been the best quality. So sorry about that there's a big clunky microphone in the way. But anyways, I was inspired to do a kind of wrap up video. It's basically wrapping up all of my recent reads for this year so far. I have read 18 books as of today. Today is hold please. February 27th, 2024. Now, do not count on me for a monthly wrap up, but maybe count on me for like a bi-monthly wrap up. Okay. So, like I said, at the end of 2023, I was in a slump of life and books and everything. Okay. So, I was not really reading that much. And the books that I was reading, I was just not as interested in them. I don't know. But as soon as January 1st hit, I was like, you know what? I'm a reader again. I'm a reader girly, okay? So I started reading and I've already read 18 books. I think I already said that. I'm so sorry. But here are some of my books. I'm going to not rank them from worst to best, but I'm going to talk about them in the order that I read them. Hold please while I go look at my Goodreads. I've got like short-term memory loss or something, so I don't really remember the order that I read these books in. Also, me filming this video was so last minute, so I don't have the physical books, and I'm not gonna get the physical books that I owed, so I'm just gonna put the pictures of the books here. I'm so sorry. If you are here for a professional good time, that's not this place. But if you're here for a silly goofy good time, that's this place. Okay, starting off strong with the first book that I read this year, Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. I know you guys love this book. Well, at least a lot of people love this book, okay? However, I did not love my time reading this book. This follows Sloane and Rowan. It is kind of a dark romance, like dark rom-com horror romance, basically. Sloane and Rowan are both serial killers, but think Dexter-esque serial killers. They kill bad men, okay? Which, yes, slay, wonderful, amazing, okay? It starts with Sloane in a cage next to a rotting corpse of the man that she murdered, and Rowan arrives ready to murder that man as well, and Sloane beat him to it. That's their little meet cute, okay? So after a little bit of banter, he unlocks the cage for her. They go out. He realizes, oh my gosh, I know you. You are the orb weaver. And she's like, yeah, that's me. And he's like, well, do you know me, the butcher? And she's like, I don't know you, but she really actually does know him. Anyways, they're like, let's play this game where we try to catch bad men, and whoever gets to them first gets to kill them. So the book in theory is cute. The horror, I will say, I think was really well done. I don't know Bryn Weaver's background, but I feel like she wrote the horror and the gore really well. I just did not love the romance part of this, and this is supposed to be a romance book. Because there are time jumps in this book. It is because of the game. Like the time jumps are there for a reason, but just that whole structure of the book really kind of ruined their romance for me. I did not feel chemistry between them. I felt like they were good friends, but they like literally knew nothing intimate about each other until the end of the book. Like I got to a point, I think I was like 70% in, and it said 4 years had passed and they knew nothing about each other. And I was like, is this how romance is supposed to be written? No, no, no. Okay, so yeah, but we did do a Control Yourself podcast episode about this book, and Lauren and Carlos did like this book. So maybe go watch that. Don't let my opinion sway you. I would still recommend this book to people, especially if you don't read dark romance and you want to get into dark romance. This is like a very light-hearted way to get into it. But definitely read the content warnings at the beginning, just because if you have like a queasy stomach, maybe you wouldn't like the gore that's in this. I don't know. I gave it 3 stars. I did contemplate bringing it down to 2.5 stars, but I'll just keep it at a 3. I'm going to keep it at a 3. The next book that I read was Mushroom Girls in Love. This is a manga, it is a standalone. I really was excited about this book. I bought this book when I was in San Diego visiting one of my bookish friends, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, Mushroom Girls in Love. It's a world where there's only women, no men. It's gonna be so cute, girly, amazing, right? So there was really no plot to this book. Um, I guess the Mushroom Girls were kind of in love. I mean, it starts off with them getting married, but then one of the girls gets kidnapped. I don't really remember, but it was just a lot of pages giving definitions of each of the different mushroom people and different mushroom kinds of creatures that were there. So it was literally just no plot, just mushrooms. So if you want that, maybe read it, but I honestly would not recommend it. I think I gave it 2 stars. Okay, the next book that I read was also a manga. It is, well, it's actually a manhwa. It was On or Off Volume 1. This is a gay romance, kind of romance, but not really romance in the first volume. I don't know. Is that a spoiler? I don't really know. But it was so cute. I liked it a lot. It's basically this guy who is starting like this tech startup, but one of the people quits or pulls out of it, and he has to give like the presentation to this big company. However, one of the big guys in this big company is someone that he had sexual relations with for a moment in time. And he's been fantasizing about him ever since that. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember a lot about volume 1. That's probably bad. I'm so sorry, guys. I literally have a terrible memory. I'm working on it, okay? I'm literally taking my vitamins. I'm trying to work on my memory, okay? But anyways, my friend Syra lended me her copy of volume 1 and 2, and I still haven't read volume 2, so I will read that soon. But I highly recommend this. Oh, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book that I read was also another manga. I think I talked about last year reading Yona of the Dawn. I read Yona of the Dawn volume 10. Yona of the Dawn volume 10, I'm not gonna lie, I remember nothing about this volume. It's also volume 10, so I probably shouldn't tell you anything about it. But basically, Yona of the Dawn as a whole is about Yona. She was a princess, or is a princess, but her father is murdered. I won't tell you by who. It kind of happens in like the first couple pages of volume 1, but still, it's still a little like, oh my gosh. But anyways, she escapes because the person that killed her father is also going to kill her. So her and I don't really remember his title, basically her security guard, Hawk, they escape and they are on this journey to find the 4 dragons. 4 of them, yes. And yeah, that's all I'm going to tell you. But I would highly recommend this series. Apparently, it is still going on. There's already 40 volumes, 41 volumes. I don't know, but it is still continuous, so it's not over yet. The next book. This next book was my favorite read of January. I am obsessed with it. I love it. I cried while reading this book. It is Ask for Andrea or Ask for Andrea. I don't really know how to say it, but it is by Noelle W. Ely. It is so good. It's also a very, very short read. So this is a thriller. It follows these 3 women in their afterlife that were all killed by the same serial killer. And you kind of do have to suspend your disbelief for this book, even though it's set in the real world in modern times. It's just that little magical realism part of them being in the afterlife. It's literally their ghosts telling us a story. It is so good though. The way that these three women are grappling with the fact that, first of all, they're dead. They were killed by this man who lured them, all three of them, while also dealing with their own grief of grieving their own deaths, grieving the fact that they're not going to be able to be with the people around them anymore, and then also trying to help future girls. It is just, it is so good. The way that the afterlife was presented in this book, it was so good. I don't know. I've personally never read a book like this. It gave me the same vibes as the Lovely Bones movie. I never read the book, The Lovely Bones. I don't think I ever will because that movie made me cry. But if you've ever seen that movie, how we're following her ghost and basically trying to solve her murder, it was kind of similar to that. Oh, it is just, ooh, us following the women and the fact that they're kind of victim blaming themselves at some points, like, oh, I should have trusted my intuition, I should have trusted my gut, all of this stuff. It's just like, wow. I feel like I was emotional about this book just because this stuff happens. Obviously, not the ghost part, coming back for revenge, but women literally meeting a man thinking he's so charming, he's so amazing, and him snapping like that in a second. Okay. So I feel like that's why I was so emotional reading this book. And then the ending, it was just, I felt very satisfied reading this book. Now, I did give it 4.5 stars, not a 5-star for me, just because I feel like the writing wasn't as good as it could have been. But I just love this story so much. And then a book that I have literally been reading since November. I had been reading this book since November, since it came out. Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Can you tell how I feel about this book? Can you tell? Can you tell? It took me 2.5 months to finish this book. It was literally so bad. It was so bad. I'm so sorry if you like Iron Flame. I'm literally so sorry because trust me, I loved Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing was one of my favorite books last year. I read it 3 times, okay? I read it literally 3 times. I don't reread books. That just is not something that I do. But Fourth Wing was my comfort read last year. It was not objectively well written. I understand that, but the story, the characters, everything, I was just so entertained. I was entertained. Iron Flame, not entertaining at all. I despise this book. And the more that I talk about this book, the angrier I feel. It was just awful. The main character turned into this whiny girl who was making stupid decisions. She is supposed to be this amazing, smart, strong person, and she was just whiny, annoying, repetitive. This book was so repetitive. The amount of times, and you know what? I'm going to put spoilers up here because I cannot not spoil this book. So maybe fast forward to whenever you don't see spoilers on the screen. The amount of times that Violet complained of,
Oh my gosh, I can't trust Zayden. Oh my gosh, but he looks so good. I just can't trust him. He doesn't love me. He won't tell me the truth.
Violet, Violet, please, please. This is not you. This is literally not you. Why are you talking like this? Her whininess went on for like 600 pages, even past part 2. People were like, no, you just have to get to part 2. Once you get to part 2, it gets better. Well, I got to part 2. She was still whining. She was still whining until Violet and Zayden finally got back together. But even then, she was like, he'll never tell me the full truth or open up fully to me. Girl, girl. Also, the ending was predictable. I don't mind a predictable ending just because I feel like Fourth Wing also ended predictably. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm still going to read the 3rd book. I'm going to continue the series, obviously. I mean, I hate Red Zodiac Academy and then ended up loving it. But it just sucks to love the 1st book and then hate the 2nd book. 2 stars. Oh my gosh. The next book that I read was Holes by Louis Sachar. Sakar? I don't know how to say his last name. But I read Holes. One thing about me is I literally love the Holes movie so much. I could watch that anytime, anywhere. I love it. so much. But I had never read the book. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to the audiobook of this. And I honestly loved it. I really did. I feel like though, if I had not already seen the movie and I just read the book, I would think the book was boring because I'm not gonna lie, the whole concept of them just being in the desert, digging holes, even the flashbacks of like Mary Lou and Sam, it was a little boring. But because I love the movie, I was just picturing everything that was happening. So 5 stars. The next book I read was a thriller, and it is Not So Perfect Strangers by L.S. Stratton. This book is crazy, okay? My friend Kimmy, she got this book for me for Christmas, and I had seen a bunch of YouTubers talking about it as well. So I was like, I have to read this book. So when I finally did, I was shooketh. I don't know. The way that the synopsis and the way people talk about it, it just this is not what I was expecting. I don't want to give anything away. So I will just explain kind of what is on the back of the book. One fateful encounter upends the lives of two women in this tense domestic thriller, a modern spin on the Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train that flips the script on race and gender politics. I'm a big believer that women should help each other, Tasha, she says. Don't you think? Tasha Jenkins has finally found the courage to leave her abusive husband. Taking her teenage son with her, Tasha checks into a hotel the night before their flight out of DC and out of Cordell Jenkins' life forever. But escaping isn't so easy, and Tasha soon finds herself driving back to her own personal hell. As she is leaving, a white woman pounds on her car window, begging to be let in. Behind the woman, an angry man is in pursuit. Tasha makes a split-second decision that will alter the course of her life. She lets her in and takes off. I'm going to stop there with the synopsis, okay? So, Tasha Jenkins, a black woman, is leaving her abusive husband, okay? She, for whatever reason, I'm not gonna tell you because you find out in the book, she is going back. She's driving. She sees this white woman. I think her name was Madison. I'm pretty sure her name was Madison, who's like running. There's an angry man behind her, and she's like, please, please, please let me in, let me in. And she makes the decision to let her in her car. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It is dual POV. Well, and like kind of has two timelines. So it has Tasha's point of view, it has Madison's point of view, and then it has the point of view of like now. So both of their point of views are kind of in the past, and then the now is in third person, just explaining what's actually going on, what happened. Just read this book. Read it. My review on Goodreads was felt like whiplash, and that is what it felt like. 4 stars. Great job. After Not So Strangers, I read a short little book. I'm pretty sure it was 13 pages, so you can just call it a short story, not a book. It was The River by Noelle W. Ely. This was kind of like an epilogue to Ask for Andrea or Ask for Andrea. I still don't know how to say that, but somebody let me know, please. But this was like the sequel. I don't know. It's letting us know how one of the characters ends up and what happens to her. And I don't know, I liked it. I gave it 3 stars because I don't think it was necessary, but I did cry. So yeah. After that, I read a book in the Dark Olympus series called Radiant Sin by Katie Robert. I had read all the 3 books leading up to this book. So I was like, well, I'm already in this world. I'm already in the series. Let me read this. This book was boring. I'm not gonna lie. The couple in this book, I don't even remember who we follow. Apollo and let me check. Apollo and Cassandra. I just feel like their romance was boring. I don't know. They just kind of already loved each other and just didn't tell each other. And then the whole political thing, I don't know. It was boring. But if you're in the series, I guess read this book because it kind of has an important sub political plot in it. I don't know. 2 stars. Guys, this next book, don't judge me, but I gave this next book 5 stars. It is Get in My Swamp by GM Ferry. If you looked at this and thought,
Hmm. Is that Shrek corn?
basically, yes, yes, you would be correct. It was good. Okay, so this book follows Leona. All right, this is literally Shrek fan fiction. Okay, like don't get it twisted. This is not just some random ogre. This is Shrek, but in this book, his name is Beck. All right, it follows Leona. She is engaged to Lawrence Fark or Farquaad. I don't really know how to say his name, but basically Lord Farquaad. Okay, she's engaged to him, and she's at her bachelorette party in Florida. Why would you do that? I don't know. But she's like not having fun. So she walks off into the forest, into the swamp. And who is out there? Whose swamp is it? It is Beck's swamp. Beck is out there. He traps her. He's like, oh my gosh, there is a human woman in my swamp. I'm going to put her in a cage. Okay. So he puts her in the cage. And let's just say things get crazy. Things get crazy. Okay. Things get crazy. I think you should read this book. I will say the only thing I did not like about my experience reading this book is that it was on Kindle Vella and not Kindle. So I had to like keep buying little coins to read the rest of the story. But yeah, short read. If you want to buy a physical copy, I think that would probably be easier than reading it on Kindle Vella. It's amazing. 5 stars. Read this book. If I look lower, I'm sorry, but I'm sitting on the floor and I was sitting on my knees. Ugh, and my old lady knees are hurting, so I cannot do that anymore. But anyways, let's keep going. Oh, 2 5 stars in a row. The next book I read after Get in My Swamp was In the Tall Trees by Angel in Van Ada. This book was amazing. This is a thriller. I would categorize it as thriller. It is actually in the perspective of a 6-year-old little girl named Mella. I just want Mella to be protected and nothing bad to ever happen to her again because she is a perfect little angel and I love her. This book, I will say, is a tough read. So basically, it follows Mella, the 6-year-old girl. Like I said, it's in her perspective. So the voice is very young, the voice is very naive. She is in her house, so she thinks is a house, with her mom, her little brother, and her mom is also pregnant. Her mom is literally chained up. Okay, chained up. They are in this little house that is one room. It's a shack in the middle of the forest. And the dad only comes around sometimes. And when the dad comes, sometimes the bad man comes. And Mella is finally starting to realize that the bad man is actually just her dad. If you've ever seen The Girl in the Basement on Hulu, that's based off of a true story. This felt very similar to that. So oh, it was so sad. But Mella is such a strong little girl, even though she loved her daddy and didn't realize that the bad man was her dad. She was strong and she helped her family. And I don't want to say too much because I want you to actually read this book, but it just made my heart sad and warm. And then the author's note at the end, the author talking about her real life abuse when she was a child, that really got me too. So you can tell that this is a very personal story. After that book, I kind of needed something lighthearted, and I saw somebody put this as one to read on Goodreads, and I was like, let me read that. It is called Lipstick and Camera Clicks by DJ Murphy. So this is basically The Bachelor, but make it non-white centered, okay? Because The Bachelor, mm, lacking. But this book, so good. We follow our main character. Her name is Indigo. Yes, I did have to get over the fact that her name was Indigo, but she is an aspiring makeup artist. She goes through a terrible breakup at the beginning, and she was like, I'm gonna go on this show. But her childhood best friend is a producer on the show. She's always had a crush on him. And so he'll be there every step of the way watching her basically date this man, the bachelor. And yeah, I was loving this book for the first 80%. I really was. I was loving it. It was so cute. And like you learn to hate some of the girls that are on there on the show, but you also learn to love some of the girls that are on the show. I feel like it has really great representation, not just in like the diversity that's in the book, but also anxiety representation. There was queer representation in this book. I was liking it until I'm going to put spoilers up here in case anybody wants to read this book. There was a third act breakup in my least favorite tropey way. So, you know, in movies where the girl is being blackmailed and like, you need to break up with this person or else I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and I'm going to hurt you and I'm going to hurt him. That happened in this book. Indigo was threatened that the producers of the show, the filmmakers of the show, were going to release this footage that was going to make her look bad. It was going to hurt the main bachelor guy, who we actually learned to love, and it's going to hurt River, who is her longtime best friend that's working on the show. And she's like,
Okay, I'm gonna break up with them then.
and then that happens. I hated that. But after that, the ending was really cute. So yeah, 3.5 stars. Then after this read, I was like, okay, light, fluffy, cute. I'm going to read an extreme horror book. And I did. It is The Harbinger of Vengeance by John Athan. This book was crazy. So we start out, first of all, we start off really strong. I still feel a little uncomfortable with the use of the F slur used in this book. I don't know. I know extreme horror does that, but I just feel uncomfortable. It was a part of the story, which was understandable, but still, I don't know. Let's move on. It starts off, we follow this kid. His name is Aiden in high school. He is being severely bullied. Like, think of the worst things you can do to bully a kid. This is what's happening to him. It's sad, awful, devastating, okay? And then we flash forward to now, and we follow Sean, who was one of Aiden's biggest bullies. And Sean's eating at a diner with his wife. He's having a great time. They go to leave, and then this man in a hoodie is blocking Sean. And Sean's like, dude, I don't have any money. Back off. And then the guy's like,
Do you know what a harbinger is?
and he's like, hey, man, what are you trying to do? He's like,
Harbinger. It's a messenger.
then we get back to Sean's house. His wife is doing dishes. She screams. And he's like, what's going on? His wife is like, well, there's somebody outside the window. And he says, well, I'm going to go check. Who's outside? The man in the hoodie. It's Aiden, the man that he bullied whenever they were kids. Okay, he's coming back for revenge. Somehow he convinces the wife that they are old friends, and she lets him come inside so that they can chit chat and catch up. The wife goes upstairs. And basically, Aiden is threatening Sean, telling him,
Okay, you're gonna follow these 6 challenges, and then I won't hurt you or your wife. I will leave after you complete these 6 challenges.
and then Sean's like, okay. Big mistake, Sean. Big mistake. These 6 challenges follow ways that are a little more extreme that Sean bullied Aiden. So we have the challenges happening in real time and then flashback slash Aiden explaining what happened to him in high school. So yeah. It was extreme. I would recommend it if you like extreme horror. It was sad though, just because hearing about the way that he was bullied and the fact that that stuff probably is happening still, maybe not as extreme as what happened in this book, but just, I don't know, it makes me sad. But yeah, I rounded it up to 5, but I think I'm at a 4.5 for this one. And then after that, I had to read the book for my podcast. It was The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. This book is a YA sci-fi. If you have not seen our episode on this book, maybe watch it. I don't know. All I can say is that I was just so confused. Lauren was confused. Carlos was confused. We were all confused reading this book. And I really wanted to like this book because the cover, look at the cover. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's fantastic. I love it. But the actual content inside the book, not my favorite. Not my favorite. So yeah, I don't really know how to explain this book to you. It follows 2 different sisters, POVs, follows C, who is trapped on this island, who's been there for 3 years. and she has amnesia. All she can remember is that she has a sister named Kay. Then it follows Casey, who's the sister. Casey is trying to figure out what happened to her sister Celia. And yeah, it's sci-fi, so it has some different technology. I do like the potential of this book. I like the potential of this world because Casey lives on this like eco island kind of. It's basically this like eco place that's hovering over the earth and it's in tiers. Think the 100, but instead of being up in space, you're just like hovering over the earth. If your carbon footprint is really really high, you're at the bottom of the food chain, the bottom of this little ecosystem island thing. And then the lower your carbon footprint, the higher you are, the more extravagant things you get, the more high tech things you get. And I think it had so much potential. It just failed a little bit. I'm so sorry. Yeah, did not love this book. 2 stars. After that, I was just catching up on Yona of the Dawn again. I read Yona of the Dawn, volume 11. Again, I'm not going to go into detail about this because it is volume 11. So, still highly recommend. I will say I was bored of this at the very beginning, but by the end, I was like, okay, cute. 4 stars. After Yona of the Dawn, I went through another tough read. I read Minor Detail by Adania Shibli. This book is written by a Palestinian author. It is kind of historical fiction. It actually came out, I think, in 2016, so a while ago. But it starts out in 1949. It's following an Israeli camp where these soldiers are going on these different patrols, basically trying to find any Palestinian, any Arab people to kill them. And one of these patrols, they do find a camp of people who are literally just minding their business, shoot them all up. But there is one survivor of it, and it is a young girl. And it basically follows that young girl, what the Israeli soldiers do with her. Then in the next chapter, this book is literally only 2 chapters. It is so short. My physical copy, I think it's 105 pages, but on Kindle, it was like showing that it was 60 something pages. So I guess just depending the page length, but it's only 2 chapters long. The second chapter is now in present day and it's following this Palestinian journalist and follows her day to day, her seeing this article of what happened to that girl and trying to find the truth about it. And she's kind of obsessed with this to the point where she's willing to kind of risk her life to go figure out what's going on. And I will say, like, I feel sad talking about it right now just because of all the awful things going on right now with the Palestinian people in Gaza, in other parts of the Middle East. So I feel like this was important to spotlight. I would recommend reading it, but I will say just trigger warning, it does not have assault on page, but it's obviously happened. I gave this 5 stars. I will say it was a translated work, so some of the writing might not have been translated as well as it could have been. But the way that the story is told and the parallels between the two storylines that are happening in there gives me chills. So, yeah. And then on a more lighthearted note, the most recent book that I finished was That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. Now, I actually do have this book next to me. Okay. As you can see, I tabbed this book, not because it was amazing, fantastic, but I tabbed like the funny parts and like the sexy parts too. So, yeah. I actually read this book last year during my slump. I literally remember nothing about it. I didn't even put this book on Goodreads. I didn't even rate this book. All I remembered is that we followed Cinnamon. I literally in my head thought Cinnamon had more than one sister. She just has one sister, Cherry. But it follows this girl, Cinnamon, who is drunk one day. She's walking and she sees this man and she's like,
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go save you, man.
and picks all the branches up off of him. And then he's like,
You should run.
and she's like,
What?
and then he starts chasing after her. He's a demon, okay? Then she falls into her little garden because she's running home and she hits him with cinnamon. He snaps out of it. And then it follows their journey after that. This book, I will describe it as like cozy, steamy, romanticy rom-com. It could have been better than what it was. I will say, looking at the reviews, it looks like people that kept on with the series like book 2 and book 3 more. It's a part of the Mead Mishap series. I will say I enjoyed my time reading this, but not a new favorite. Now, I just wanted to spotlight a book that I am almost finished with. And by almost, let's actually check the progress on the book. Oh, by almost, I mean 30% of the way through this book. That is not even close. I am on page 193 of 630. But anyways, I did want to spotlight this book. It is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. This book, so far at least, is so good. It is so good. A lot of people compare this, or kind of compare it to Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the way that the magic in this works, which, yes, I will say, just with the bending that happens in this book, it is very similar, but it's kind of interesting because it has very traditional things happening in this book while also having modern type of technology. Like, they have TVs and they have different things like that. I'm like, "What?" I don't know. It is so interesting, and the mom in this book, Misaki, she is my favorite character. I literally don't even know what's gonna happen. I still have, like, 400 pages left. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm excited about this. So, I just wanted to let you guys know that I was reading it. Well, thank you guys for listening to me rant. I'm sorry about my sick voice. Maybe it's a little bit better than my regular voice. I don't know. But thank you for listening and watching and sticking around. If you liked my video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, tell me what you've read recently, tell me your favorite reads. Have you read something on this list? Did I hate a book that you liked? Please let me know. I'm so sorry. If you hated a book that I liked, you can let me know too, but be nice about it. Anyways, I will see you next time. Love you. Say it back.